Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. Shadowlands continues to be putting on a real trend of success, just recently entering, as of last reset, Season 1, where Mythic Plus, Normal and Heroic Raiding, and Rated PvP all became available, seeing the real push in bringing people back to World of Warcraft carrying on as strong as ever. And on the 8th of December, Blizzard released a massive announcement that, as of the first day of Shadowlands' launch, more than 3.7 million units have been sold globally, making World of Warcraft's 8th expansion the fastest selling PC game ever, only narrowly beating out the previous holder of this crown, Blizzard's own Diablo 2, which had 3.5 million units sold in comparison. And of course, I'm now having to come back to writing this bit because a certain game just released the other day, and unsurprisingly, it smashed what Shadowlands achieved with 8 million total pre-orders, 59% of them being PC, so about 4.7 million day one, and I'm talking about Cyberpunk, of course. What is the moral of the story here? If your game is really hyped up, just delay it, or something. There really is something to be said for Shadowlands though, if we take a deeper look into Blizzard's post and some of the claims they've made. In the months leading up to the expansion's release since launch, the game has sustained its highest number of players subbed compared to the same period ahead of and following any WoW expansion in the past decade, which is a rather long way of saying, and I've even shortened it, WoW's sub count is the highest it's been in a very long time, and Blizzard are proud of it. I'd love the actual numbers since they did stop doing them at the end of Warlords of Draenor, which looks something like this by the way. I'm not surprised they stopped releasing them. I mean, the company's job is to make dollars for investors, and no profit-oriented business is going to publish public releases saying, hey guys, look how bad we're doing, unless they legally have to, which they don't. They also mention following any WoW expansion in the past decade, and that lands very unmistakably, exceptionally close to the release of Cataclysm, which was on the 7th of December 2010. And this post was made on the 8th of December, by the way. And as per Cata launch, once again, per Blizzard's own publicly announced the data, they used to straight up say how many subs they had on quarterly calls. Back then they had 12 million subs. So are we saying then that Shadowlands has the highest number of subs that WoW has ever seen? I mean, a lot of people have come back for sure, 3.7 million is pretty massive, but even if we look at Mists of Pandaria, that was sitting at a strong 10 million at the start of the expansion, for example. But Cataclysm lands cleanly within their wording here. It almost seems a bit too good to be true. Were that many millions of players really gripped by the Shadowlands pre-patch and the promise of that rather large bag that one rare dropped in Icecrown? Maybe I'm reading into it wrong, let me know. Either way, with what they're saying, we must be looking at over 10 million subs at the moment for certain. It also mentions players have spent more time in Azeroth year to date than in the same period of any of the last 10 years, also very impressive. Shadowlands isn't exactly a carousel of mandatory dailies and endless grinds. In fact, it literally time gates itself through things like the reputation in the Maw, the Eye of the Jailer, maxing out your floors in Torghast, and so on. Finally, it says total player time in-game this year to date has nearly doubled compared to the same period last year. And yeah, I'd hope that it would, to be honest. This time last year was the back end of patch 8.2, which was the Rise of Ashara patch that included Nazjatar and Mechagon. Compared to an expansion launch, I'm kind of hoping that Shadowlands will be doing better than that. Hype is gonna be hype though. It's still the early days, sure, but just think across some other expansions what you were doing in WoD. You had gearing through heroic dungeons, you had raid, you had your garrison progression, which was actually pretty good early on. I enjoyed my garrison. It just sort of ran out of things to do, and then there was never anything else after it. You did the reputations, the grinds, the mounts, etc., or finished the zone storylines if you wanted. Warlords of Draenor released with plans to never implement flying until players complained about it enough and they put the Patch Finder achievement in a later patch. In BFA, think back, what were you doing? You were probably doing every single quest on the world map because you needed the gear and for progression items and upgrades. Comparatively, Shadowlands has a lot more stuff to do whilst having less of it be mandatory to do or to just non-stop repeatedly need to engage in. It does seem like it is going in the right direction at the moment. The first raid tier, Castle Nathria, has opened on normal and heroic this week as well. Too many discussions that it is one of the hardest opening raid tiers, well, ever really. Normal difficulty seeing about as many clears as you would expect. Heroic though, heroic is something else entirely. I mean, just take a look at the number of some of these stats to compare. Normal's fine enough, but as of doing this, well, you can see how quickly the difficulty spikes up. Under a 3-digit number of guilds having completed the final 3 bosses, and only 4 guilds worldwide taking out the final boss of this first raid tier. Now, the world first guilds aren't exactly going to be going completely insane when it comes to Heroic Week. Time is, after all, better spent farming as much gear as possible to get ready for Mythic, rather than bashing your head into an overtuned wall of a boss for days upon end. But it's definitely a flex though, isn't it? I was honestly kind of worried that the raid was going to just fall over, as it would be really tough for Blizzard to gauge what power level players would be at, given all the variables that conduits, the legendaries, the soulbinds and so on present. It seems like they've gone with the option of overtuning it, which I do prefer. If it is undertuned, then well, you only ever get to experience it for the first time once, right? It really does feel like some live beta testing for Mythic Week at the moment though, if I'm honest. There's a raid being hard, then there is a single-digit number of guilds having been able to clear it on Heroic within a few days. Either it's the case that rapid player power growth is anticipated over the next few weeks through Shadowlands' numerous systems, or Heroic Week tuning is going to include Heroic raid nerfs, I'd say. It makes me very excited to tune into the world first race for this tier though. Actual Mythic raids have been fully cleared faster than Heroic Castle Nafria, by the way. Yes, I'm looking at you, Emerald Nightmare, which was cleared in 18 hours from launch. As for class balance, well, it's not too bad for the start of an expansion, especially one with 4 different temporary power gain systems. Let me tell you though, if there is a time when you do not want your class to be miles ahead of everybody else in a raid, it's during Heroic Week at the start of an expansion. If your class is nicely in the middle or just perhaps a little bit ahead, you should be pretty safe where you are. Apart from feral druids, of course. Everybody knows that ferals aren't allowed to be high on DPS meters. It's part of Blizzard's design philosophy at this point, I'm pretty sure. Ferals and enhancement, those 2 specs, straight to the bottom. If they're ever somewhat playable, they get nerfed. Also, on a completely unrelated and unbiased note, buff demonology locks, that'd be great, thanks. Healers are looking quite similar, Shaman powering ahead as the throughput machine. It's always a bit more difficult to judge healer-wise, as it can often be down to the utility they bring and how they heal damage, rather than just being able to pump insane numbers constantly. I wouldn't be surprised to see Shaman in the same boat as Unholy DK's Mythic reset though. As for other areas of the game, some have definitely grown on me a bit more, been putting some more time into Torghast. I figured out what I was doing wrong, and that was trying to play demo for like the 3rd expansion in a row, and hoping it'd be better than Affliction at literally anything. Typical. It does get better once you start to learn a bit more about the powers you get and how well some of them stack up on each other as well, and just let you delete the boss at the end. I'll have to see how much I can manage with my scuff gear once we start seeing some of the higher floors soon. As for the PvP side of the game, yeah, I've no idea, it isn't really my jam. I've seen more than a few clips of people getting global by hunters or rogues though. Kill times are so fast it's almost like you're still playing Classic. Hopefully nothing remains too insane for too long though. Also, for people leaving dungeons as soon as they defeat the boss that drops their legendary token is still a thing, and it's going to be a thing forever unless it gets changed at some point, which is kind of annoying and inconvenient for the rest of the party. And I know it's only week 2 of the game, it's good to see WoW doing good though, especially considering the game's been supposedly dead for about 16 years now, so it's pretty impressive, isn't it? And there's no doubt it's not just been Shadowlands' hype to contribute towards its massive success. I think players appreciated that it was delayed, and it's ended up delivering, so far at least. I mean, it was coming off the back of BFA, it was going to be pretty hard to do worse, but at least I think I can say at the moment it's exceeding expectations. Also, with people being obliged to be indoors more too, when better to have a new MMO come out. No doubt this has given Shadowlands a big boost up too. Also, I've read quite a large number of people have gone over from Classic and started playing retail much more than they expected to, given how well it's playing out so far, which I think is only ever a good thing. I'm going to be interested to follow along this expansion as it goes for once, rather than always looking back at how things were in the past. That will be a new thing for me to do for sure. Anyways, how is Shadowlands going for you at the moment? Still good? Still enjoying it? Or getting a bit tired out already? Let me know. As always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I will see you in the next one very soon. If you like what you see, do give the video a like and subscribe, as there will be plenty more to come. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.